Hello everybody, I'm going to attempt to do a return to form, which is going to talk about whatever I want to, in attempt to make content for you all along with maybe some other videos in between my other uploads. And for now, I want to talk about the recent Dead by Daylight possible update that includes the change to the Mori system, as well as the change to the slugging situation, which includes a baseline Unbreakable. If you like these types of videos and enjoy my videos that I might make in the future, please, of course, like, comment, and subscribe for more of these videos. So before I get into this update, I really want to talk about the community reaction to this update, especially in regards to particular content creators like Artsava, because I feel as though people just really dislike when dev companies communicate with people and actively want feedback for something that could be potentially bad changes, but could be potentially good changes. Because one of the things that people need to keep in mind when it comes to this particular change, it's actually really good, surprisingly, even though people are treating it as the most negative thing that they could ever think of because of the initial assumptions this update would provide. Even with my own disagreements with some of the things that this update might provide, is the fact that this is going to be on the PTB, but it isn't even a guaranteed thing for the next update. That is something that they assured us in the post itself, meaning that this is something that they want to fully flesh out and test out and hear feedback for before actually implementing it into the live game, even more so than your typical PvE. And so I feel as though people reacting in a way that this is gonna ruin Dead by Daylight or something to that degree is completely acting facetiously, simply because that's probably not the case. If it is as bad as people think it's going to be, there will be some amount of changes. That's just how this would work, because of the way they are presenting these changes. Not only that, what I find particularly disgusting is how people treat content creators like Artsava. Now, he laid down an opinion that said that these changes were overtly good, and the first thing that people said, or what a lot of people said, I mean, there's a comment here that has 80 likes, saying that Behavior has a gun to his head, obviously being a little, facetious in that particular sense, but it's absurd that there are a lot of people who actually agree with this weird narrative that somebody like Artsava, of all people, would be in line with Behavior to that degree. It was not too long ago, folk, that he made a video specifically saying that he might actually quit streaming Dead by Daylight if the cheater problem wasn't fixed. Like, why would somebody who's apparently under the payroll of Behavior really say those types of words? It's absolutely insane. And even somebody like Pixelbush, somebody who is a Twins main who probably hates this update more so than any other update they'll ever do, especially for somebody who proposed nerfs to Unbreakable, would even like a comment of mine stating that this is an absurd accusation to levy on Artsava. I think you have to really look within yourself to see how absurd you're really making yourself out to be, and how much of a clown statement it is to actually consider Artsava, of all people, to be a shill when he has done so much work for the community, whether it's helpful guides or absolutely calling out Behavior for bad things they implemented into the game. This is something that Artsava has done on his stream and in his videos quite frequently. It's just a sad and absurd thing to assume of a person who's done so much for the community, who has worked so difficult. I don't know anybody else who makes a 7.5-hour video going over what perks are good and bad, and detailing each and everything that makes things good or bad, and then maybe including nerfs or buffs, and going over, like, who the hell does that, other than a mad lad? Like, I don't know, it bothers me so much that people go to such lengths to put somebody in that position, but I digress. So now that that's out of the way, we can talk about the actual changes, which the first change to be mentioned is, of course, the Mori Change, which there will be no other way to Mori other than through very specific killer cases, which for Pyramid Head for his power, and for Michael Myers for his add-ons, I believe, are the only ones that are really outside of the new Mori system. Other ways to Mori people, whether it's with the offerings or with perks, are going to be changed, with the offerings giving blood points and the perks being changed to different things, like Devour Hope, I believe, is going to allow you to instantly kill somebody you down, and with the 5th stack of Devour Hope, I believe doing a similar effect to that of the Endgame Collapse. Not 100% certain about that, but we'll see. And Rancor just is like Noed, but worse. So maybe Rancor could get changed if people really care about Rancor that much for it to be a slightly better perk, but for now it just feels like, ooh, I can see the aura of the obsession a little bit, and I get a Noed for one survivor. There it is. And the change to the Mori system is just you're able to Mori the last survivor no matter what. What this means is that if a survivor is on a hook, or dead, or on the ground, if you down the last survivor, you're able to kill them. What also happens is that both the survivor and killer's field of view are increased. Now, I don't think there was a specific number for the increase, so we don't know if it will be as good, worse, or better than, say, the killer perk Shadowborn, but we will soon see in the PTB that will come up. And so create this sort of intense moment where if the killer downs you, everybody will die and ends the game fast. Now, obviously, this is a straight-up buff to killer, simply because it is going to end games faster, and it allows for certain uses of slugging, as well as being able to hook a survivor, maybe down a survivor, and able to really sort of get the survivors faster without these games of like constantly reviving and not reviving again and again. Because there's been many times in my game where it's either I'm playing Survivor and it's just a game of we're going to lose anyways, but we might as well keep on reviving each other again and again and creating the same sort of kind of boring gameplay loop. Or if you're a killer, playing the same weird games. As well as this prevents, of course, the abuse of slugging people to death as well, being a relatively positive thing for survivors. Now for me, the only time I ever maliciously slug somebody is when they give me the good old tea of bags and they are being chased by me. And when I'm able to do a successful game, kill all the other survivors, and then see that individual who was being so cocky the entire game watches life drain away, well, I get a slight satisfaction for that, but I don't do it to any other people, okay? It's only for people who felt the need to make my day better, so I made their day better. You know what I'm saying? You an eye for an eye? Shut up. It's the only way I did it. And well, that's nerfed. And that's fine, it allows me to be less malicious, and that's fine for the game to change that to a degree. And so this change isn't terrible. The only thing is that you won't be able to Mori multiple people, which sucks. The one thing I hope really comes out of this is that they invest more with Moris, because let me tell you, every time I see like an update and I see like this new Mori animation and it's from the mobile version of the game for like a killer and it looks kind of cool, I always get a slight bit of depression. So I hope Behavior takes this opportunity with the Mori being like in a fixed position for them to actually invest in getting like new Moris for killers, because certain outdated killers like Trapper, Wraith, or whatever have very terrible Moris that need better Moris that are actually using their own powers and doing other stuff. I just want them to do better Moris, okay? That's what I want. That's on my wish list, Behavior, please. Okay, thanks. And the other thing is that I hope that the animation of downing a survivor and then bringing them to that particular point is smooth, because I feel like that would just feel awkward. I think that you should down somebody and then the killer automatically picks the bruv up, and then it does a fade away, and then they put the survivor down to the position that's there, and then that's when you do the Mori. That would probably feel the best, instead of like you kill them and then we sort of flash frame into them being on the ground in a random place. I don't know. That's just opinion me. I feel like that would be weird. Anyways, so the next possible change to the game is, of course, the change to being downed, which allows the survivor to pick themselves whenever without the usage of a perk, with them taking 45 seconds to be able to get up from the downed position and be able to do whatever. Now, this essentially also means, I think, that it also takes more time to pick somebody up. I'm not sure about that, but I feel like that's how that would be, so there's a slight nerf of being able to pick somebody up yourself, maybe. I'm not 100% certain of that, or if it's just that way when it comes to picking yourself up, but nonetheless, it is a buff to survivors, in a sense, to allow them to counteract slugging, which many killers tend to do, or some malicious killers can do when it comes to people being malicious and wanting people to die on the floor instead of ending the game faster. Now, obviously, the Mori system will, of course, prevent that to a degree as well, but this allows for reasonable counterplay for the survivors to be able to get back into the game if a killer chooses to go on a slugging spree. If somebody doesn't bring the perk Unbreakable, it shouldn't exactly be the correct play to slug everybody and then automatically win or like hook somebody, go after everybody else. There's gameplay there for sure, but I feel like having some amount of counterplay is still fine. Now, the only issue, of course, with this is degenerate gameplay. One of the worst things in the game to deal with as killers is, of course, a bully squad. A squad really meant to torment the killer in a way that makes them happy, ha, and just does stuff that might generally end up making them lose the game, but always makes, at least me as a killer, always feel like a waste of game I just played and not feeling good at all about that game at all. And when a perk like Boil Over was buffed not too long ago, that's when bully squads really took advantage of this particular perk and used it to such a horrible effectiveness to just make games a slog. You evidently won because you were able to slug, and even though they use maybe perks like Boon Exponential and Unbreakable and such, you still more or less won because you could still slug per se. They still would have their dying meter or whatever, but it would just be a slog, boring game that was dumb. And they nerfed Boil Over to it being at a reasonable state where it still is an annoying perk, but it's definitely not nearly as bad as it was before. Now, this change could potentially bring those types of people back into the foray, and what makes this change even more scary when it comes to the changes that they decided to do for the perk Unbreakable is that it makes Unbreakable a perk to fall in line with these sort of annoying playstyle. Now, and this is the type of gameplay that I feel like would be a problem, not necessarily the baseline Unbreakable being a thing. It's being able to pick yourself very fast, being unable to slug and deal with other survivors who are just being annoying, and would just have this continued gameplay loop of just survivors doing really, really annoying things that just lead to boring states of play for the killer in particular, in which I don't think that's great. That's why I don't think a gameplay style like Basement Bubba is good for the game at all, because any games that feel like they're just slogs and are stupid are games that I feel are unnecessary for the game's health as a whole. So, but that's the thing about this particular update, is that I don't feel like the Unbreakable change in particular, because that's getting buffed to 100%, so it's getting giga buff essentially, with of course the removal of you being able to pick yourself up, because you can do that anytime now. I feel like that's the particular change that's going to be the most negative change, and with this being not in the next update and this being on the PTB for people to test, people again need to realize that these things could be negative. These things could be seen as poorly implemented, and if that's the case, issue your feedback in a respectful way to behavior. The thing is, and the thing that people need to quite frankly understand, is that they have been listening to feedback kind of ridiculously as of late. Whether it's the change to reassurance after it was seen to be problematic from people who used it to abuse people or held people hostage, whether it's the many changes they made to Wesker to make him an amazing killer that's not only fun to play but play against, and when it comes to fixing his bugs, fixing his hitboxes, and doing actually the things people said they should do for him. I think they've been doing a decent job. Not to mention the mid-chapter patch they recently had that was overall a bunch of good changes that I feel like made the game in a much healthier and better state. For many reasons. I think they've been doing a lot. Actively listen to feedback. And that was just for updates that were going to be for the next update. This isn't even going to be in the next update. They're putting out this PTB as a way for people to test it out for a future update. This means that there is even more time to gather feedback, and if there is seriously some issues with these changes, you have time to test it out and you have time to levy your criticism. And this tells me for sure that they probably feel like these changes might be a little wonky and are up for changes. So I urge people to give behavior this at least chance in this regard, to actively engage with this new changes and just display your feedback like I'm doing here, like anybody else is doing, in a respectful, reasonable way, instead of shouting that the sky is falling or telling content creators that they're shills because they don't agree with your perception of the changes. Go to the PTB, test it yourself, play with other people, see if these things can be busted in this way or whatever, and give your feedback. That's what you can do. Be respectful, be reasonable. Like, it's not that hard. Now let me be clear. Well, most people shouldn't riot. There is a group of people that should, and those are, of course, the Twins mains. The Twins mains have been getting the short end of the stick for quite some time, whether it was the introduction of Circle of Healing or the weird nerfing of one of their add-ons, despite showcasing how nobody plays Twins, and you want to know how to get people to play twins by nerfing their best add-on. That's a good way to get people to play even more twins without any compensation. And now we might even see a reduction to the twins population even further from 5 to 4 after the baseline Unbreakable changes, because that was another thing that twins did, because that was one of the few ways they could get back from games or whatever, is by slugging people, having Victor down multiple people, and now that's effectively counteracted with these changes. So, behavior. I think what you need to do for at least the next update, because apparently these updates aren't going to come until after the next update, I believe. You need, for the next update, to just do your twins rework. The twins need some love, man. We need some more twins main populations out there. Because I feel like twins people would get more love if you just showed them more love. I mean, look at Victor. He's so cute. Look at him. Just do it. Just do it, behavior. Twins mains are good people. You know, you don't want to see them angry, and they're going to be upset. You don't want to make them upset, so don't make them upset. Anyways, folks, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Long-ass tangents. It is something that I used to do on this channel, and well, maybe it's finally a return to form. Anyways, folks, I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.